All right, so today we're going to break down a really powerful sermon from Hillsong pastor Kon Grapsas. He uses his own pretty intense personal story, one of hypocrisy and then redemption, to get into this really challenging question. What does it actually mean to live a risen life?
So this whole thing doesn't kick off with some, lofty theological idea. Nope, it starts with something super personal and relatable. The speaker, Kon Grapsas, just comes right out and admits he was living this profound double life.
And boom, there it is. That's the quote that just kicks this whole thing off. It's so raw, right? It takes this big spiritual concept and just grounds it in a really human struggle that I think a lot of people can understand. It's not about being perfect. It's about that awful feeling of being completely fake. And this right here, it just lays out that internal battle perfectly, doesn't it? On one side, you've got Saturday night. He's the life of the party at the nightclub. Then flip the switch, and it's Sunday morning, and he's got to act all holy in his Sunday best. This was way more than just changing clothes. It was like having a split personality, trying to live in two worlds that just don't mix.
And let's be super clear here. This wasn't some guy who was new to faith. He grew up in it. Went to the youth camps, did all the right things you're supposed to do. He even made that formal commitment to Jesus when he was 18. But even with all that, his actual life just wasn't lining up. So all this tension, this constant feeling of being a total hypocrite, it just builds and builds until something had to give. He hit a breaking point where he knew he had to make a choice. He couldn't keep up this dance between two different lives.
And his first decision was, honestly, it was pretty extreme. He chose to go all out, walking away from his faith completely. He dove headfirst into a life of partying. But then, of all places, in the middle of a nightclub, he has this massive turning point. He just felt this overwhelming need to leave right then and there. He rushed home, got on his knees, and gave his life back to Jesus. But this time was different. This time he was all in.
So there's a word for the state of hypocrisy that he was in, and the sermon pulls it right from the Bible: lukewarm. And man, it is a harsh term. I mean, the language from the book of Revelation is just incredibly blunt. It says being in that in-between state is so gross that it's like something you have to spit out of your mouth.
Okay, so if being lukewarm is the problem, then what's the fix? This is where the sermon pivots from his personal story to the actual biblical game plan for what this new all-in life is supposed to look like. In this verse, right here from Colossians, this is basically the foundation for everything that follows. The instruction is crystal clear. If you've been raised with Christ, your whole focus, your heart, your mind, everything has to shift. You've got to move it away from earthly stuff and onto a higher perspective. And what this does is it completely reframes the whole idea of salvation. It's not just a get-out-of-jail-free card for your past mistakes. No, it's the starting line for a brand new life, a whole new direction. The big idea here is that your identity itself changes, so your focus has to change with it. But, okay, that sounds great, right? New direction, new life, but what does that actually look like day to day? Well, the sermon breaks it down into this really practical two-step process. First up, subtraction. You have to consciously get rid of the old destructive habits. And the Bible does not mince words here. Colossians gives this super direct, almost blunt list of what belongs to that old, earthly nature that you're supposed to, put to death. And yeah, it's an uncomfortable list. It covers everything from greed and lust to anger, slander, and lying. But here's the thing. It's not just about stopping the bad stuff. That's only half the battle. The second part is all about addition. You have to proactively put on a whole new set of characteristics, almost like you're literally changing your clothes. And I love how this lays it out. It's a direct trade. You take off anger and rage, you put on compassion. You ditch the slander, you put on kindness. You get rid of lying, you put on humility. It's a total wardrobe change for your soul, and love is kind of the thing that holds the whole outfit together. All right, so from here the sermon takes a turn and asks what is maybe its most challenging question. It's a real critique of how a lot of us might approach faith today, asking if we've settled for something comfortable. And this is a tough one to hear. The idea is that so often we don't really want a savior who's going to totally transform us. We just want, enough Jesus to make us feel good, to make us comfortable, without it actually costing us anything. And he gives a few examples of what that looks like. First, this idea that we want the eternal reward of heaven, but we're not so keen on doing the hard work of changing while we're still here on earth. It's like wanting the prize at the end without actually running the race. And then there's this one.
This tendency to want Jesus to just bless our plans, to be a cosmic stamp of approval on what we already want to do, rather than us surrendering our plans and asking what He wants for us.
And wow, this last one really hits hard. It perfectly captures the difference between faith as a fashion accessory, just something you wear, and faith as a real sacrificial commitment, something you actually have to carry.
So after all of that, the personal story, the biblical breakdown, it all boils down to this one direct question. And it's not for the speaker to answer anymore. It's a challenge for every single one of us.
Because in the end, the sermon's whole point is that the real test of faith isn't about what we say or what we claim, it's about what our lives actually show. The final question isn't just a thought provoker, it's a mirror. Does our life actually match our claim?